The governor passed a law that allows the victims of gun violence to sue firearm manufacturers. Supporters say it will reduce gun violence, while critics argue that the new law will put firearm manufacturers out of business. NTD's Daniel Hall has the story.
Californians can now legally sue gun manufacturers if they are a victim of a shooting. Governor Gavin Newsom signed Assembly Bill 1594 into law on Monday, which was authored by Assemblymember Phil Ting.
I'll be signing a bill that will allow Californians to sue irresponsible gun manufacturers and distributors. If you've been hurt or a family member is a victim of gun violence, you can now go to court.
A 2005 federal law protects gun manufacturers and dealers from lawsuits.
It allows victims of firearms as well as cities to sue the firearms industry, manufacturers, dealers for negligence. Again, not if they're following the law, but for negligence. It allows them to take matters into their own hands.
California Attorney General Rob Bonta echoed Newsom's sentiment that the gun industry should not be immune from responsibility for the misuse of guns. The California Republican Assembly opposed the measure. They wrote on their website, Assembly Bill 1594 would allow governments and victims of violence involving firearms to sue firearm manufacturers or retailers for liability when firearms are used in incidents of deaths or injuries, even if they have broken no laws. 9 senators voted against the bill during the final legislative vote.
To punitively punish firearms providers or firearms retailers, that's going to limit people's ability to obtain firearms. What we need to be focusing on is people who obtain firearms illegally.
The California Republican Assembly warned that the bill would put firearm retailers and manufacturers out of business. The new state law will come into effect in July 2023. Daniel Hall, NTD News, California.
The Los Angeles Board of Supervisors has been repeatedly at odds with the county sheriff. They're now pushing for a way to remove him from his position. But the final decision will still be in the voters' hands come election season.
On July 12th, the Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors directed attorneys to draft a proposed ballot measure that would give the board power to remove an elective sheriff from office. The issue will still need to return to the board for final passage before it goes before voters in November. The measure would allow the board to remove an elective sheriff for cause with a 4/5 vote. It passed in a 4-1 vote on Tuesday. Board Chair Holly Mitchell said, "Unfortunately, the county has had a long and troubling history with sheriff oversight and transparency." In response, Sheriff Alex Villanueva blasted the proposal as unconstitutional. He sent a letter to the board Monday saying the motion would allow corrupt board members to intimidate sheriffs from carrying out their official duties to investigate crime. He added that allowing political appointees with an agenda to determine cause is fundamentally flawed. Villanueva had made waves in Los Angeles County for refusing to enforce COVID lockdown and jab mandates, some of the strictest in the state. County attorneys will now draft the necessary paperwork to put the issue on the November ballot, then return it to the board for a July 26 vote on whether to move forward. Villanueva's bid for a second term is headed for a November runoff against former Long Beach Police Chief Robert Luna. On Monday, Luna's campaign announced that all 5 members of the Board of Supervisors had endorsed him.
Despite California having one of the best stretches of land to grow crops in the nation, it's not easy to run a farm in the state. A Southern California family farm shared with the NTD's Jackie Rios what difficulties they're facing coming from both inside and out.
A lot of the produce we consume every day comes from places like Mexico, Chile, Peru, and elsewhere. And some of it even comes from right here in Irvine, California. But for how much longer? We visited Ann and Dan Manicero, third-generation farmers here in Orange County, to find out what's happening with family farms. The family said that no matter what they do, it's harder and harder to compete.
We have high cost of labor and obviously the fuel and all of that stuff that's going on. Whereas when they bring produce in from, say, somewhere like Mexico or one of the other countries, they don't have the minimum wage and they don't have the regulation and all of the things that we face here being American farmers.
She pointed out how much California pays compared to other states and even countries.
Well, for instance, California, I believe we have the highest minimum wage in the country, and which is $15 an hour. When you compare that to, say, Mexico, they're paying $3 an hour as compared to 15. They're basically getting like $15 a day, whereas we're paying that per hour.
On top of high wages, inflation is not only impacting the family's products, but also the cost of buying equipment to keep the farm in business.
When you grow produce, everything goes in a box. That cost has gone up 50% in the last year, if you can believe that. That cost of that tractor just went up 30% in the last year that we wanted to get. And they're not even available because there's supply issues with that.
While subsidies may be available to some U.S. farmers, Manicero Farm says they're on their own.
No, it's just an open market, supply and demand. If there's a lot, you don't get a good price. If there's a very little short crop, you might get a better price, but there's no subsidies for any kind of produce right now.
Since the conflict in Ukraine, headlines have recently come out of impending food shortages.
There's no shortages yet. They haven't harvested the wheat and the corn crops in the Midwest. They could get wiped out. It could be 50% less than they expect. So they can't, I mean, right now they're working on last year's products and crops. So, but going forward, there could be, of course, shortages.
According to the USDA, currently there are no food shortages. As for their farm, they hope to keep it in the family.
This is a designated green space, and hopefully it will always stay that way, because we're running out of farmland. We're an urban farmer, and the more that the urban building encroaches on us, the less land we have to be able to farm.
The Maniceros said they hope the community can help support not just them, but other growers in the Golden State.
I just want to say you should support your local farms, especially in the way things are going now. You need the local farms. You want to eat healthy. You want to eat fresh produce and stay away from all the processed stuff.
Orange County was once dominated by agriculture, and although the landscape has changed dramatically, Manicero Farms is doing all it can to hold on and keep the family farm alive. Jackie Rios, NTD News, California.
40-year-old David Brian Pierce, a resident of Beverly Hills, was arraigned on Monday for the deaths of 24-year-old Christy Giles and 26-year-old Hilda Marcela Cabrales Arzola. According to Los Angeles County District Attorney George Gascon, the two women were dumped outside a Southlands hospital last November, where they both died from a toxic mixture of multiple drugs, including cocaine, fentanyl, ecstasy, and GHB, also known as the date rape drug. Pierce was not immediately charged with the two homicides, but was arrested last December, where he has remained in jail for the connection of multiple unrelated alleged sexual assaults. He's already facing sex-related counts against 7 women over a 13-year period. The district attorney is asking any other potential victims of Pierce to notify the Los Angeles Police Department or the district attorney's office as soon as possible. David Lamb, NTD News, California.
When it comes to law enforcement, we see more crime and tragedy on the news than we should. But there are positive stories. A sheriff's academy surprised a little girl going through a medical crisis with a special scavenger hunt and an even more special reward.
Here, I'll wear them for you.
On Thursday, little Aubrey came to the training grounds on Morgan Hill, southeast of San Jose, and became a junior sheriff recruit. Among the Santa Clara County Sheriff's Academy students, she is the youngest trainee. Aubrey navigated through a scavenger hunt and solved a case by locating the missing dress and slipper. And eventually, she caught the suspect and found a surprise.
We came into today thinking it was just a part of a training exercise, and here we are in tears. So overwhelmed, so grateful.
Aubrey is 8 years old. Her mother said Aubrey is going into her 18th surgery.
I mean, going through surgery for a tumor that's regrown is not easy. It's not an easy thing at all, but this is definitely going to lighten the load.
Silva said there's much uncertainty going into the surgery.
She had a mass removed in the top of her sinus cavity, pushing on the eye socket back in 2018, which was right before her Make-A-Wish trip. We didn't think that was going to happen, and it's since regrown. She's had a lot of fluid buildup with her immune deficiencies.
Aubrey says her favorite thing to do is spend time with family, and she shared her favorite Disney princess.
Tiana.
Why?
Because I like at the end of her movie she kisses a frog and she gets to go back to her happy place.
The Academy class of the Santa Clara County Sheriff's Department planned and paid for the Disneyland trip, putting Aubrey in tears.
You ran that way. Because I'm glad people care about me.
Silva said Aubrey used to be in a wheelchair, and that's when they met a deputy. One recruit said watching Aubrey go through the course reminded him of why he signed up to become an officer.
A lot of people, when we enlist for this job, we think about chasing cars, catching bad guys, putting them in jail. But we came together as a class, and we know there's more to the job than that.
Disneyland!
The Academy class designed the scavenger hunt in 1 week.
It's all about the community, how we can best serve our community.
And at the end of the day, we want, the next generation, the kids, to know that, we're here for them. And I think this is a great way to show them that.
After the training, Aubrey is scheduled to go into surgery the very next day, and we all hope she gains the confidence and strength she needs to push through and recover in order to see her favorite character at Disneyland. David Lamb, NTD News, California.
It's the end of an era for Splash Mountain. Disney will change the name of Splash Mountain to Tiana's Bayou Adventure.
Disney announced that Splash Mountain will now be known as Tiana's Bayou Adventure. The ride will reopen in Walt Disney World and in Disneyland in late 2024. The revamped attraction will now be based on the animated movie The Princess and the Frog, where the first Black princess was featured. Disney Imagineering's team members discussed the creative process of the ride's new design with fans and conducted research to make sure Tiana's look was authentic to the character and historically accurate. Splash Mountain opened in Disneyland in 1989 and was themed after the 1946 film Song of the South. In recent years, Disney has received complaints from some activists and academics about the theme of the ride and the way the movie depicts Black people. While many applauded the change, other Disneyland fans have opposed altering the iconic ride. They suggested that Disney should build a new ride about Tiana.